Welcome, guys. And this is an exciting day for Auburn. I'd like to address kind of the recruiting process and some uniqueness of this process. I think probably the biggest thing was, Auburn is a family place. It's built on family, and the challenges of recruiting without being able to bring prospects to the Auburn campus so they can feel Auburn, because Auburn is very much about the feel once you get here. And this year we had to go through the process. The staff had to recruit virtually. We could not bring them to the campus, and that was a challenge because Auburn sells itself when you get them on campus. So that had some effect on the recruiting process. We adjusted best we could, and then of course the fact that the change happened a couple of days before signing date was a big challenge for the staff in its own right, in that recruiting without a head coach to the final 3 days to signing date was certainly a challenge with that. And that brings me to a point. I think I'd be remiss if I did not say that we appreciate Coach Malzahn, what he did for Auburn University. The staff, the players appreciate his leadership. They appreciate the way that he led this program and treated us while he was here, and we wish he and his family nothing but the best. As far as and getting back to the change, the staff did a great job the last couple of days, relentless in their pursuit of trying to keep the class together and represent Auburn in terms of the way that people at Auburn would be proud. Because when you're trying to sign a class without a head coach, it's certainly a challenge. And the thing that probably jumps out the most is that in the process, we signed 12 guys today. We only lost one to another school that we had committed, which in its own right is phenomenal. That it's only one without a head coach in place. And then we have 5 others that are holding. They're going to wait to see who the head coach is. We will also be adding a signee Friday that wants to sign on a birthday. So by Friday we will be up to 13. With that, I'll kind of give you an overview of it. The offensive line probably took the biggest hit, if you could say that, in that we signed Garner Langlow from Trinity Christian in Florida and Trinity Catholic in Florida. He stood in the paint, and that leads me to say this: these guys, these 12. They showed a commitment to Auburn University that is the kind of commitment you want in the fourth quarter in the Iron Bowl. They did not waver, and they were committed to finish for Auburn, and that's huge. But Garner's an offensive lineman from, like I said, Trinity Catholic in Florida. We do have one more offensive lineman holding, and then we lost one to another school. So that was probably where we had the most movement. We signed both tight ends, and Landon King and Grant Calcaterra, the transfer from Oklahoma. So we got both of those in the boat. The running back that we had committed is chose to hold till we get a head coach. In the wide receiver position, we Hal Presley came aboard from Mansfield Summit in Texas. Very, very good football player, electric with the ball in his hand, good strong hands, and we feel very good about him. We have another young man that chose to wait. We did get Demetrius Davis, the quarterback, which obviously a class without a quarterback is hard, and usually if we'd had to wait or had lost him, replacing a quarterback is hard to do in a class. So we're glad that he stayed with his commitment. All in all, on offense, that makes 5 signees. We lost one. We've got 3 holding. So if depending on what the next head coach wants to do, there's a possibility of having 8 there. Then on defense, the defensive line, we signed 4. Marquise Robinson from Milton, Florida, Lee Hunter from Blount, Alabama, Tabichi Okoli from Lincoln Prep in Missouri, and Ian Matthews from Pacelli, Georgia. So the 4 D linemen, and we will be adding another D lineman on Friday. So that will be 5, which leads me to a point that is an option possibly for the next leader, is that we have a lot of linemen, particularly defensive linemen, on the team. There's been programs in the past, I've been part of programs in the past, where there's been successful moves from defense to offense. In fact, we played with 2 on offense this year that were originally defensive linemen, and that's not any specific person. It's not anybody having anybody in mind, but that is an option to expedite the development and the process in the offensive line and fill some voids. That could be an option for somebody if they chose to go that direction. We also signed 3 defensive backs. Kamal Haddon, a junior college player from Independence, originally from Ypsilanti, Michigan, very, very talented football player. Amari Harvey from Florida State High in Tallahassee. And we added A.D. Diamond, who was a guy that we'd had our eyes on. He played in the Mississippi All-Star game with Alabama and did a very good job. So we added him today, and then we still have 2 possibilities out there. So on defense, that's 7 signees. We will add 1 Friday for the 8th, and then we have 2 holding. So numbers-wise, so that you can have that, is we signed 12, and technically speaking, there's 11 more spots on the books that could be filled, and so that would be up to the next head coach. With that, I can open it up for questions.
Thank you, Coach. Our first question is from J.G. Tate.
Hey, Kevin, just a question about your last 3 days. Just kind of walk us through the things that you've been doing. What have you had to do?
Well, probably the biggest thing was Sunday afternoon as a staff. We dealt with our players and their emotions and assuring them that, all the reasons they came to Auburn are still in place. And then as soon as that was over, it was a pretty long night calling the commitments, calling other recruits that were uncommitted that we still were trying to recruit. And we jumped out on a limb and had some fun and actually called some recruits to see if we could flip them. And trying to flip somebody without a head coach kind of makes it interesting, but we took a gamble on that and made some progress, actually. Monday was all day. I guess it started about 6:50 in the office and ended about 12:40 of just talking to recruits, talking to high school coaches, talking to committed recruits, trying to keep the class together. Because if you're not talking to them, somebody else is. And so obviously what happened Monday and Sunday night was once the news broke, is obviously our committed recruits started getting calls from, and there's nothing wrong with it, there's nothing illegal about it, it's not bad, but other schools started calling them, trying to get them to flip. So you had to spend a lot of time making sure that didn't happen. I thought we thought the staff, it was an unbelievable job of, there's a lot of people will say a lot of things about this recruiting class, but I don't think anybody would have said that we'd stood here today and said that we've got 12 guys, the 13th guy on Friday. We've got 5 guys that did not sign their holding. So they didn't flip and go somewhere else. They said, we'll wait to see who the head coach is. And only lost 1 guy. 1 guy signed somewhere else. And so I don't think anybody could have said and believed that would have happened. And then Tuesday was kind of a repeat of Monday, and then we woke up this morning and started watching the I started to say fax machine, but now it's a computer. The email's coming back. It's changed a great deal for me. When I first started coaching, we actually went out and signed them ourselves. Then it went to fax machines, and now they even take pictures of it. And NCAA said a photocopy on your iPhone is a document, so we're good to go. It's changed a lot, so we just kind of watched the electronics come in today.
Next question is from Ryan Hennessy.
Coach, obviously you're in a tough spot right now with no head coach name, trying to recruit players. How do you sell Auburn to these 17, 18-year-old kids when you don't even know what the future program is going to look like yet?
Well, it's not a tough spot. I mean, you wake up and win the day. You know, tomorrow will take care of itself. And this is when a young man's picking a school, they don't always know this, but Auburn sells itself, and it's an easy place in a lot of ways to recruit to because it sells itself, and that you know, we can sit here and say it was hard and rough, but you just wake up and win the day. You know, as far as I know, I'm still employed at Auburn University, and so is every other assistant coach on that hallway. And we are all to Auburn, and that's what everybody lined up and did. And so, in a positive way, you know, sometimes you're behind the fourth quarter, you got to fight. You can't give up. You got to buckle your chin strap. You got to hit them in the mouth and attack things, and you know, win the down and play the next play. It's not a time to sit there and worry about how you feel. It's not that way when it's in the fourth quarter of a big game, and it's not that way when it's in this situation today.
Next is Mark Murphy.
Yeah, Coach, could you talk about what the biggest need you see is for the class, for the big picture 2021?
Obviously, I think that we would say, you know, we want to replenish the linebacker class in terms of where we're sitting now with these letters that just came in, and then the offensive line, you know, we've got to address that. That I would say that would probably be the biggest two needs that we talked about as a staff.
Next is Jeff Spiegel.
Kevin, kind of following up on what Ryan was asking, when you were trying to flip guys, what was the message to them? Opportunity to come to a great university, get a great education, be around a great family, and have a chance to go to Atlanta and win a ring, which would then put you in a position to play for it all. You can do that at Auburn. You can do it every year at Auburn. It's expected at Auburn, so it's selling a vision. And we had fun trying to flip some of them. I'd be remiss if I didn't tell you we had so much fun that we actually had two of them flipped. They wound up flipping back, but we had two flipped.
Next, Jason Caldwell.
Kevin, you talk about the defensive line group. It's a line of scrimmage game, and you got four guys that can help you at the line of scrimmage. Just a little bit more about just the versatility of that group and the size of them. It's a big group.
Yeah, we needed, with Lee and Marquise, obviously, we needed some big, strong, powerful, athletic guys inside there. They answer that. Tabichi and Ian, they're more athletic, edge-type guys. So all of that was answered in that. We also addressed, trying to address the buck linebacker position because there'll be some graduation there, and then we've got that group is kind of spread out good, but we did address that.
Next, Jordan Hill.
Kevin, at the top, you talked about Demetrius signing the quarterback. Just how big do you think that was that he stayed, and also for the class, the class's quarterback to have stayed and signed?
What was the last part you said? I'm sorry.
The fact that was the quarterback of this class that he wound up signing.
Yeah. Well, like I said, quarterbacks tend to choose where they're going early. They pick a lane pretty early. And so had he chose not to sign or flipped and gone somewhere else, then
you would have had to flip somebody basically. There's not guys out there that are just uncommitted at that position at the SEC level to go get. So for him to do what he did was huge, and Chad did a great job of making sure that happened. So because you can't operate in this business without a quarterback, and it's a, you know, very rarely do you see a class, unless it's just a small number of scholarships available, that you see a class without a quarterback in it.
Next, Josh Vitale.
Hey, Kevin, on the subject of Demetrius, how much excitement is there about the type of player he could be at Auburn?
Well, you know, that was kind of another thing Jay asked, you know, because I was having to talk to all the recruits. Well, I obviously watched all evaluated, written up evaluations, talked to, communicated with all the defensive players. But the offensive players, you know, I'd not seen. None of them were in my recruiting area, so I had not seen. So, you know, I had to Sunday night late so that I could talk and to them. I had to, you know, get the film cut ups and watch those guys. And with him, I mean, he's a very athletic, strong-armed, accurate, can beat you with his legs, can beat you with his arms, extremely competitive, and he's won championships. I think he's getting ready to play for his third state championship in a row. In the state of Texas, that's hard to do.
Have some follow-ups. First is J.G. Tate.
Yeah, sorry, I was out of line there. I want to talk to you a little bit about Okoli, Kevin. He's a guy, I know you've been high on the kid from Kansas City. He's a little bit out of this geographic region. So tell me what you liked about him and why you were so dogged about going after him.
Well, it kind of happened. COVID kind of caused that, to be honest with you. Realistically, what happened was that's not a normal area that we recruit. We had not been able to go out and spring recruit, and so going to our normal high school areas, going to see the top prospects in those areas, going to watch spring practices. So what we did was we had every day we went on the road technically in terms of they had a list for us of, okay, you call these 15 schools today. Now, we started out with our area, which we would normally do. Well, 15 schools in a day, you're not going to hit driving around, but you can on the phone. And so we did a lot of calling for our 4 weeks we were on the road, and we actually covered the area so fast that we started making other lists. And we called his high school coach. He mentioned his skill set. It was intriguing. Watched some video on him, and then had his high school coach have him call us. And so, or we may have called him, because I know we get one call in that time frame. And he just, it was a long, I've actually made the call. It was a long phone call, unusually long for that time. It lasted 45, 50 minutes. And he was very intrigued with the SEC. And so I think some of that comes from the fact that Missouri's in the league. And so he had been exposed to the league through Missouri, which, you know, in the 1980s and 90s, if you called Missouri, I mean, they watched Nebraska, Oklahoma, and that group, the Big Eight. They didn't watch the SEC football necessarily. So I think that had something to do with it.
Next, Mark Murphy.
Yeah, Kevin, can you talk about the potential for the new transfer rule to impact this recruiting class for Auburn and elsewhere?
Well, I think it's going to change football with the one-time transfer. It's coming. It's going to change football. I'm not sure what that future holds. And obviously, that would be up to the next head coach to how much he wants to infuse in transfers into the roster. You know, some coaches will probably say, no, we're not going that road. We're going to stay traditional. Other coaches will go a little bit that way, and some will probably go a lot that way. So that'll be up to the next head coach.
All right, we got a few more. First is Jay Tate.
Yeah, Kevin, I want to talk about Lee Hunter a little bit. It seemed like he was waffling a little bit, but you guys found a way to kind of lock him down and get him in for sure. Talk about how you did that and how important he's going to be.
Well, he's a very, very athletic defensive lineman. His skill set is very high. He has the ability to be an exceptional player in this league. His personality fits Auburn. I think probably the biggest thing is that he had made a commitment pretty early. There'd been a lot of communication, and so the relationship eventually was the thing that kept it where it was.
And our last one today, Coach, is from Mark Murphy.
The traditionally Auburn's classes are full of guys from Georgia, Florida, and Alabama. There's not a whole lot from in-state and Georgia this year. Any particular reason you think for that?
Yeah, there's a reason for it. I'm not sure. There were plenty of Georgia guys on the board. We had a lot of guys on the board. I think the staff movement and change on staff and familiarity with other locations may have created it for 1 year. I think we all know that at Auburn was built on Georgia, Alabama, North Florida players. It will always migrate back to that.
All right, Coach. Thank you for your time today. Appreciate you.
Thank you, Warrior.